downtown Baton Rouge at the State Capitol, State Library, and State Museum celebrating the 8th Louisiana Book Festival. Feels fantastic. You know, it gets bigger every year. We see more people. We have more programs, more components of the festival, so we get bigger every year and the crowds get bigger every year. Louisiana inspires so many people. So we have 225 authors that are either from Louisiana or that have been inspired to write about Louisiana here today speaking about their books, autographing books. You can buy books here today. We've got a huge children's pavilion. You can bring your kids here today because one of our, the most important things to us is to instill that love of reading in young people. So it's definitely a family-friendly day.
Louisiana has such a rich literary history, literally throughout our century, throughout our existence rather. Great authors, Louisiana authors, and a lot of books that have come out of Louisiana about Louisiana, and this festival celebrates that. And it's very important that we remember our literary history, particularly as we're embarking on the bicentennial of statehood next year in 2012. Today we're delighted and proud and honored to add to his list of accomplishments the 2011 Louisiana Writer Award. With it is a stipend that we're happy to present to Mr. Wilcox, as well as this beautiful recognition that James Wilcox has been recognized with the 2011 Louisiana Writer Award. James, congratulations. Thank you for being with us today, and I know you're all going to enjoy his comments. Louisiana Writer Award recipient James Wilcox.
Thank you, Jay, for that gracious introduction, and thanks to you, to Rebecca Hamilton, Jim Davis, and Robert Wilson for your tireless efforts on behalf of this festival. In a way, I don't feel I'm accepting this award for myself alone, but that this is also a recognition of all the fiction that has patiently staked out its own territory over many years, tuning out the din and clamor of various American idols. I was born in Hammond, and I then went to Yale, where I studied with Robert Penn Warren. He was one of my writing teachers. After that, I got a job at Random House with Robert Penn Warren's editor, and then I got hired by Doubleday, and it is there where I met Jackie Onassis, who was also an editor there, and wonderful experience for me then. Such a wonderful working relationship that we had as well.
What did you learn about books and writings from Jackie?
She had a passionate love of words, of books. She was totally dedicated to them. And she also was fluent in French. She could read French manuscripts for Doubleday, and she just had a wonderful career there as an editor, totally dedicated to her work, a true inspiration to me.
What was your reaction when you won the award?
I was very surprised, and at the same time really thrilled to be in the company of Tim Gautreaux, Ernest Gaines, and so many great Louisiana authors that have also won this award.
This morning in the Senate chamber, we'll kick off with Governor Edwin Edwards and Leo Honeycutt talking about the Edwin Edwards biography.
What's your reaction to the book festival?
Well, it's a great thing. You know, we like to think about food feeding our bodies, which is important, but books provide us with the knowledge that we need to know to have a better life, to enrich our lives, and to broaden us. And I would encourage everybody, read, because it's the key to real intelligence. It's important to know a lot of things by heart, but it's more important to know where to go get the information if you need it.
What's your reaction to the selling of your book?
I'm amazed. When we first printed it, we printed 10,000 copies, hoping to sell them. And within a week, they had been sold, and we're now up to over 60,000 copies. And I'm just very, very pleased. However, it's a very good book, well written, well researched, and has a lot of data in it and history that is important to people of Louisiana.
How did it feel to come back to the state capitol for this event?
Well, it feels great and reminiscent of old and better times, but I have much to be thankful for. I've had much undeserved bad luck and much undeserved good luck, and I take the bad with the good and just go on, keep my head up high, do what I need to do, help people when I can and wherever I can, and really I'm comfortable with my life.
Jim Brown called me up. Jim Brown, the former Secretary of State, Insurance Commissioner, State Senator. and now a publisher, called me up and he said, you know, you're on the short list to write the Edwards book. And I said, you know something, Jim, I don't care if I'm on the list at all. Edwin Edwards is not somebody I really like. And he said, well, it sure is nice to know that you're an objective reporter. Okay, all right. So I went over and I talked to him, and we struck a deal. He said, look, I'm going to tell you the truth. And I said, yeah, I know. You're going to tell me the truth from your standpoint, as anybody would, but I'm going to go back and check it out. And so I spent 2 years in the basement of the Middleton Library going back through the original internet called microfilm, which is like looking at a picket fence at 80 miles an hour, you know. And I actually had 2 research assistants who quit on the first day because they got sick, you know. But nothing's on the internet till about 1988, 89. So you have to go back and to recreate the 40s, 50s, mostly the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s in Louisiana. You've got to go back and look at the papers. And so tens of thousands of articles, you know, like just, you know, shuttled in front of your face, and no keyword. You just got to remember Edwards. You know, you're just looking for Edwards as it flashes by. And so I found out that, quite honestly, almost everything he told me, almost to the day, he could remember correctly.
Wow.
So I was really, I mean, I knew he had a great memory, but I didn't know it was that good. And so, you know, he would point me in the right direction. I'd go check it out, and it was true.
The title of the book we're going to discuss tomorrow is Don't Quit Your Day Job, and I think that's good advice for anybody wanting to go into writing, because it's a skill that takes many years to master. And to actually make money at it is something that a lot of people don't ever get to do. But still, like any artistic endeavor, you know, some people are cut out for it. But as far as advice to young people, don't forget that where you were born and raised is your territory.
My name is Mark Richard, and I wrote a book called House of Prayer Number 2, and the Southern Review published an excerpt. And when the Pushcart Prize is collected every year, they collect excellence in magazines, specifically small magazines, literary journals, and that was selected as part of their anthology this year. So I was very, very pleased with that, and hats off to everybody at the Southern Review as well. I grew up in Lake Charles, East Texas, and Virginia, and tonight when I got here, I was looking out over the Mississippi from my hotel room, and I saw the big dirty Mississippi just going on by. Same color it's been all my life, I feel like. And it felt very emotional for me. I hadn't been in Baton Rouge since I was 11 years old with my father. And that was kind of poignant to remember that. I think as far as informing my work as a writer, people have always said the themes of my work are father, son, and also always around a lot of swamp and water. So I think maybe that has something to do with my Louisiana heritage.
What got me started was I was a young man who was caught up in a life of street violence. And as a way to control myself, I started to box. And one night, instead of going to the boxing gym, I sat down with a pencil and a piece of paper and I started to write a scene. And somehow that got me into the empathic, imagining life. And it's been very hard to be violent since. I think the book that put me on the map was my third book, which is about the sixth I'd written, House of Sand and Fog. It got Oprah-fied and made into a film, and I've written a few novels since. And my new book is a memoir called Townie, which is about this journey from violence to creativity.
If you had any advice to young writers, what would you say to them?
I would tell young writers to take the advice of Richard Bausch, who said, do not think, dream. If you think that you are thinking when you're writing, think again. You're much closer to the dreaming side of your mind. So I would tell them not to outline. I would tell them to reach for the true words, and I would tell them to free fall into their psyche and their imagination and trust that the story will write itself, because it will.
It's called The Flint Heart, and this came to us through my following up on a remark made by Margaret Maughy, a New Zealand writer. And she was asked, what one children's book would you like to make sure would be available through the next 100 years? And she said, The Flint Heart.
Grasping for power makes you into an evil person, really. Wow. And this happens in the Stone Age originally, and then the flint heart, which is the talisman that causes people to gain power, but then lose all compassion and caring in the process. The flint heart is buried for 5,000 years and is unearthed by a kindly farmer who turns into a beast. And his children are distraught, of course. They want their kindly father back. And so they go to the fairies and discover what the root of their father's problem is, and that's the story. So there are wonderful characters in it, from a hot water bottle made in Germany to the great Zagabog, who is the know-all, wise, sort of godlike figure of the fairy kingdom. And it was just such a delight to do that we really loved working on it.
My book is The Horrors of Andersonville, and it is a nonfiction book about a really tragic chapter in American history, and that is prisoners of war that were incarcerated in Andersonville in Georgia. But my story isn't so much, the horror isn't just about the terrible conditions under which those men lived, and many survived, although many did not. It's really about how the media at the time and our politics at the time interpreted that situation and kind of used it to further their political gains. Wow. So it's an interesting book, but a very complicated story. There's no right or wrong or north or south. It's just as war always is, a complicated story.
What kind of advice would you give to new writers out there?
First of all, you have to have a great deal of patience. And you have to one thing I always tell people is, a lot of people try to hit the ball out of the park on the first swing. That's not always how it happens. And you have to find the right publisher for your particular work or your particular voice. So first of all, I would be true to your voice, write who you are, let your voice come out. Don't try to write something that fits a given market. Write your book. And then understand that there's a whole diverse world of publishing out there. It's not all the New York Times bestsellers. I've had 25 plus books published, but not on the bestseller list yet. But make a good living at writing and have a good audience who reads. But so I would say, you don't give up, but also kind of find the right shoe that fits the foot.
First, Louisiana made me an artist, a painter. That's what it did first. And I credit Louisiana for everything I've done, because I actually went to art school in Los Angeles and decided after 4 years to come back to Louisiana, and I saw Louisiana in a different light. Oh. So I started painting Louisiana. I started painting the Cajuns, my people, because they were never recorded. They were never recorded in paint brushes, or they were never recorded with words. So actually in 1969, I started painting Cajun people. And in 1975, I did my first book out of Oxmoor House in Birmingham, Alabama, called The Cajuns. And it was the first nationally produced book on Cajuns in English and French done. And since then, I've done probably 12 big books, coffee table books about my art and my blue dog, which I became famous for over the years. And I've gotten bigger and bigger publishers, and I've gotten bigger and bigger audiences. And I just do books about what I'm about and how the blue dog came about.
The book that I'm talking about this weekend is a Haggadah, which is the Passover ritual, and it's for interfaith families. My husband, who's Jewish, and I'm Catholic, have had a Passover celebration for 40 plus years, and we get asked all the time, how do you do it? So we decided to finally just write it all down.
Well, how did being from Louisiana affect your writing style and how you view things in the world?
Well, I think that there is a Southern sensibility, and that I certainly read Southern authors more than other authors. Walker Percy comes to mind, Ellen Gilchrist. But so I'm sure that that's affected my writing. But it's also true that being from New Orleans is really almost an ethnicity. And so, I think that it affects everything I do.
We're having fun in Baton Rouge, meeting a lot of interesting people, meeting a lot of interesting authors and local folks, and lots of people are out, and we're just having a really good time. The weather couldn't have turned out any better. More people need to come out because the more they read, the smarter they'll be.
Well, I'm a children's librarian, and I've always been involved with the book festival. I've worked in several different areas. I've always volunteered, and I believe in promoting family literacy. I think it's a really important thing in our schools. Today I'm here with my grandchildren because they have great children's activities, great speakers, great storytellers, and it's just a great family atmosphere. I just don't think you can have too much literacy promotion, especially in the pre-kindergarten ages. In my profession, I see children who have never read a book or had a book read to them, and I think that we can't have too many activities and focuses on literacy, on family literacy, and it makes books fun, makes reading fun. I think that it's one of an activity that a family can come to and not spend money. It's free. You can see a lot of things. Of course, there are books to buy and authors promoting books. It's a great chance to meet authors. But there's also activities. I mean, everybody's pinched for money these days, but it's an activity that families can come and not spend a dime and have a great time with their children. Lots of activities for the children, and the speakers are wonderful. If anyone has a chance to see the authors and their book talks in the Capitol buildings, they're very informative, and so many diverse topics. There's more than just Louisiana books, but they're authors from all around the country, talking on diverse topics, and it's just extremely educational.
We are film accessory researchers. We have a small company called Learn About Movie Posters. We do research into film, all type of film accessories, documenting movie posters, stills, things of that nature for auction houses, commercial entities, and so forth. We're here today with our last book, our 12th book, Hollywood on the Bayou, which we're documenting 1,170 films made in or about Louisiana. We're trying to promote Louisiana film history, and to where that doesn't get lost in all the new hoopla of the new production that's going on. Oddly enough, we're number 3 in production now, in film production. If you go to number 1 in California, you can go to the Academy, you can do all kind of research to find out the information of what's going on. You go to number 2 in New York, and they've got MoMA, and they've got all this kind of stuff. Number 3, we come here, no one is saving this. No one is preserving the history that is made here, and Louisiana has made major contributions to the film industry. And so we want to make sure people that know that. We want the children that are coming up in school, all the school kids, to be able to look back and see what was done here. And we think that's extremely important, and that's basically it.
Oh, we're doing relief demos. On my section we got the relief demos, and then paper making and also bookbinding demos from the LSU print program. It's just a hands-on process that we like to keep going, so not many people really know the process per se, so we're just here to sort of let people know what's going on. Got some great prints for sale today, some great demos going on, paper making, so come on out and have some fun.
I write books with my father, Mike Henry, who kind of started writing a while back, and brought me into got me into writing. We've we've written 4 books, and we're here in Baton Rouge, and we're trying to get the word out and let people know what we have. It's always great to meet other authors. It's great for authors to meet each other, and it's great to, I guess it's great to promote books. It's good to have people know that there are people that are reading, and we're keeping that alive and entertaining people at the same time, I guess.
I'm here for the book festival. I'm pleased this is the first Louisiana Book Festival I've been to. I am from the Library of Congress, where I've enjoyed a long career, 45 years thus far. I am the director of the reading promotion arm of the Library of Congress, which is called the Center for the Book. And we're very proud of our Louisiana Center for the Book, which is our state affiliate here. One of our projects is the National Book Festival, and my particular task there, it's one in which the National Center for the Book plays a big role, I'm the author coordinator. So I've had a wonderful experience just in September when we expanded our National Book Festival from 1 day to 2, and from 72 writers to 112 for the 2-day period.
You go to several of these a year sometimes, and this is one where the people are warm and welcoming. The food is always great, and people are talking about humane books, funny books, books that mean something, and sometimes they capture the passion that I think just people from Louisiana have.
It's been so thrilling to me as an English teacher to know that people cared enough to put this festival together, that so many people came out and enjoyed it, that people love books, they love to meet authors, they love to hear authors talk about their work. And so to have it gone was devastating, and to have it back is thrilling.
I am so impressed with it. I think it is the best festival that I've ever been to in the United States. I've been to several festivals. It is run so beautifully, smoothly. It attracts such a wide variety of artists and writers, and has so many different programs going that it really is hard to beat. And it's all free too.
I love the book festival. I've been a fan of it ever since its beginning. I'm so glad it's back.
It's wonderful to be back. It's like coming to a family reunion. I'm seeing people, that I haven't seen in 2 years, and so it's a joyous thing.
I think this is probably the best book festival in the United States, and I've been to quite a few festivals. But it's just a wonderful gathering. It's joyful. It's much more than just listening to people talk about books. It's listening to people pour themselves out and just sort of strip themselves for you. I think this year there are 250 authors, and on top of that you have the book tent, and you have music, and you have events for children, and it's all free.
I think it's wonderful, and I'm so honored to be part of it, I think it's just great getting authors and photographers together.
I love it. I think it's really great for emerging writers such as myself to actually get some sort of recognition, and it also brings awareness and literacy to the public.
It's a wonderful opportunity for people who want to learn to write, as you mentioned, and also for people who have written like us to gain exposure. It validates us, that it shows that Louisiana appreciates what we have done and what we are doing, and the time and effort that we put into developing our craft and producing stories, particularly about Louisiana.
Well, this is the wrap-up of the return of the Louisiana Book Festival, and this is really an introduction of the old War School movie that's been premiered recently and is now available for sale, and this is going to be some of the music from the soundtrack of the movie, and it's going to really be kind of neat. Well, if you're an LSU Tiger fan, I haven't seen it yet now. I'm looking forward to seeing it, but it obviously traces a history of LSU football from back in 1893, where games were actually played right out here where we're standing in the Pentagon Barracks when the LSU campus was located here. So right in the area near where we are is where LSU first played football, and it traces the history of LSU football from then all the way to the BCS championships in present day, with interviews with more than 80 LSU players. I'm really looking forward to seeing this film.
I'm the director-producer of Old War School, the story of Saturday night, about the history of LSU football from 1893 to present day. The film was a journey that we've been on for several years. Kind of started, my dad played for LSU in the 60s, so I've kind of always been around LSU football. But in 2007, we did a project with Herb Vincent at LSU, and it kind of started I started asking questions, where did this history come from? Where did the name Tigers come from? Where did the colors come from? Where do they make the crystal ball? All these questions started, kind of coming in, and me being a history geek, along with loving to tell a good story, we started, pulling the stories together, pulling folks together, pulling the ideas, and here we are 4 years later, and premiering Old War School, out in stores this week. Right now, what we're listening to is actually original score from the movie. Some of which were done by different artists like Still Bill, Mike Esnault, Paul Ledoux. There's many others. Those are just a few of the folks, but all Louisiana musicians playing great Louisiana music from rock and roll really from the 1890s all the way to present day hip hop and everything in between, because the history of LSU football story is 120 plus years, so there's a lot of music in there. I think that for us it is about football, but really football is the stage for which this film plays on. The story is really the story of Saturday night, the behind the scenes as well, what it takes to get 11 guys on the field. So yeah, it's important about the game, but it's also important about what it takes to really create this thing we know as Saturday night in Death Valley.
Louisiana is the most fascinating place in the world, and if you come here today, you'll hear so many people having written these wonderful, exotic, mysterious, and lovely stories about the great state of Louisiana.
I hope they will leave here enriched by a lot of great Louisiana literature, and I think they'll be encouraged to come back next year and to make certain that we always remember this rich literary history that Louisiana has, something that we celebrate. It's one of the passions we have in Louisiana, and we like to celebrate our passions.
They can go to our website at www.state.lib.la.us. They can call the State Library. I'm Rebecca, or Jim Davis, who's the director of the Center for the Book, which puts on the book festival. And we literally start planning for next year the day after this year, so we start immediately.